After a long and exhausting final trial, Oscar Ray Bolin Jr., 53, carried out this project by lethal injection in the state of Florida in 2016. He had spent 23 years on death row. Bolin, a serial killer, was convicted of killing 3 women in the 1980s. His half-brother was the main witness and key evidence against Bolin. He witnessed Bolin violently beating a raped woman with a bed sheet. Bolin did not have the final say when he carried out this project. However, he did have lunch at last. Bolin requested a gourmet meal, including a medium-rare ribeye, served with buttered baked potatoes and sour cream. He also requested a salad made from hurricane winds, sliced cucumbers, and sliced tomatoes. Bolin also wanted garlic bread and a can of Coca-Cola. Count Forrest died at the age of 66, the first execution in the state of Missouri in 2016. According to the evidence, Forrest was convicted of killing 3 people and injuring 2 others. Things went downhill when Forrest went to one victim's house, asking the victim to buy a mobile home and a lawn mower in order to introduce the victim to a methamphetamine dealer. When the victim refused, Forrest fatally shot the victim in the face during a confrontation, then shot another victim 6 times, killing both instantly. Forrest later shot and killed a deputy in a shootout and wounded 2 others, including his then-girlfriend. Forrest was sentenced to death by lethal injection for his crimes. For his last meal, he requested a full meal. Forrest ordered a portion of pasta, steak, slices of tomato and cucumber, fruit, and chocolate cake. Ronnie Threadgill, 40, was the 3rd inmate executed in Texas in 2013. He was given a lethal injection less than 2 hours after the U.S. Supreme Court rejected his final appeal. Threadgill unsuccessfully argued that he had been deprived of legal assistance in his 2002 murder case. He was convicted of killing 17-year-old Dexter McDonald during a carjacking at a club. Threadgill's lawyers unsuccessfully argued that his case deserved a review because he had been deprived of legal assistance in his 2002 murder trial when he was sentenced to death for killing Dexter McDonald. It is said that every convicted person deserves a last meal. For his last meal, Threadgill requested roasted chicken, mashed potatoes with country gravy, vegetables, sweet peas, bread, tea, water, and brandy. However, Texas abolished the last meal option in 2011, so Threadgill was given the same meal as everyone else in his prison cell. Before his execution, Ronnie Threadgill nodded to a female friend standing a few feet behind a window, then smiled broadly, showing off his full set of gold teeth. He was pronounced dead 25 minutes later, at 6:39 p.m. Christopher Eugene Brooks was executed in Alabama for the 1992 murder of Joe Deanne Campbell, after the U.S. Supreme Court refused to stay the death penalty. Brooks was the 57th inmate executed in Alabama since executions resumed in 1983, and the first since 2013. Prosecutors said Campbell left Brooks overnight on December 30, 1992, in the living room of her Homewood apartment after he showed up at the restaurant where she worked. The next day, police found Campbell's naked body under the bed in her apartment in the Birmingham suburb of Homewood. According to court records, Brooks' bloody fingerprints were on the doorknob in Campbell's bedroom. Brooks has maintained his innocence to the end. On his last day, Brooks was offered breakfast, but he declined. After meeting with friends, his lawyer, and his counselor, he requested his last meal. Brooks' request was simple and not as lavish as his previous meals. He wanted 2 peanut butter cups and a can of Dr. Pepper to wash it down. Executed in Virginia by lethal injection at the age of 41. She was sentenced to death for the murders of her husband and stepson. She also became the first female inmate to die by lethal injection in Virginia in nearly a century. In 2002, Lewis met Matthew Schallenberger, 21, and Rodney Fuller, 19, at Walmart, and began an affair with both while still married. Lewis hatched and spearheaded a plan, with the help of Schallenberger and Fuller, to assassinate her husband and son for insurance money. Schallenberger and Fuller entered Lewis's car that evening, while Teresa Lewis was waiting for them in the kitchen. Schellenberger shot her sleeping husband several times, while Fuller arrived and shot Teresa Lewis's husband in his bedroom. Before the sentencing, supporters of Lewis, who suffered from mental retardation, shared a recording on the website of Lewis singing the gospel hymn "I Need a Miracle." As the recording played, images of Lewis and her daughter appeared on the screen. Victims' rights advocates were unable to support her appeal. All three were arrested and Lewis was sentenced to death. For her last meal, Lewis requested fried chicken, buttered peas, apple pie, and Dr. Pepper. Ferdinando Nicola Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti, Italian-American anarchists, were convicted of murdering a man in the 1920s in Massachusetts. After several hours of deliberation on July 14, 1921, the jury found Nicola Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti guilty of first-degree murder and they were executed by electric chair. Although they were convicted of murder, the judge executed them. A series of appeals were later dismissed and the state of Massachusetts refused. In 1977, the governor of Massachusetts declared that the two men had been wrongfully executed. Ferdinando Nicola Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti were executed in Massachusetts by electric chair when they were 36 and 39 years old, respectively. They were sentenced to death for 2 counts of murder. For their last meal, Nicola Sacco and Vanzetti asked for soup, tea, meat, and toast. Ted Bundy, perhaps one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, was sentenced to death at the age of 43 for raping his victims, even the corpses of his victims who had already shown signs of necrosis, escaping prison, and over 35 counts of murder. Many considered Bundy to be handsome and charismatic, who apparently exploited these traits to gain the trust of his victims. He would meet people in public and then kill them in secluded locations. Bundy had a habit of revisiting his gruesome crime scenes, then raping his victims' decomposing bodies. Bundy was executed and died in the electric chair in 1989. Bundy once said of himself that he was the coldest-hearted son of a bitch you'll ever meet. Even his lawyer, Polly Nelson, wrote that Bundy was the very definition of callous evil. Bundy refused a special meal, so was served the traditional last meal: medium-rare steak, fried eggs, home fries, toast with butter and jelly, milk and juice.